Hey super friends, and welcome to this, the 25th edition of the Get Your Comic Con podcast with me, Neil, and my friend Martin. Say hello, Martin.
Hello, Martin.
What are we going to be telling the lovely listeners at home about this week? You don't know, because as always, the whiteboard's behind you. So it's left down to me. So we're going to start out with a quick news roundup of what's been going on the last couple of weeks. We're then going to go back to New York, or not literally back to New York, not like we were last time. To recap what we did after NYCC. I've got a book that I want to tell you all about. We've got a couple of films to be talking about, including Zombieland, which we both went to, and Terminator Dark Fate, which I saw. Going to quickly talk about my trip to MCM Comic Con at the weekend. Controversial as it was, because you weren't there.
Replaced.
You were not replaced. I just had to go with a friend, not you. And we've got how many episodes of Titans to talk about?
Quite a few.
Episodes 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So that's going to be quick fire succession of Titans this week, I think.
I won't make any promises.
Okay. Let's start off with the news. First up on my list, new and final trailer for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. So let's do what we always do here on the Geico podcast. Before we talk about it, let's have a listen to it.
It's an instinct. Feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I do.
Long have I waited. And now, you're coming together. Is your undoing.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir, at my friends.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny. The Force will be with you.
Always.
So what do we think of this trailer?
Thank the Star Wars gods that JJ's back.
No offense to Rian
say no
Johnson,
more.
but yes.
All offense to Rian Johnson.
No. When you get to see Knives Out, you'll understand that what the guy does works when it's in the right kind of context, but not for Star Wars. Although, to be fair, you still haven't seen Last Jedi since we saw it at the cinema, have you?
No.
I actually have liked it more each time I've watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I still wouldn't say it's anywhere... I still think prequels are better than The Last Jedi. But
I quite like the prequels, though.
and that's because you're a child of the prequels. But it's... Yeah. Thank heavens for J.J. Abrams. There's a lot going on here. It's all quite emotional.
Well, it's the last one. That's the end of the saga. Is that a saga?
Yes, it's the end of the Skywalker saga. Think of it like the Infinity Saga. Disney seems to be keen on a saga right now.
It's a good way to bleed a franchise, I suppose.
It is. Okay, favourite moment?
All of it.
Okay. Least favourite moment?
None of it.
Most intriguing moment?
The Emperor.
Okay.
Is he dead? How did he come back? What happened?
Well, we've had this discussion on this podcast before, where you remember I reached over to my right and whipped out Dark Empire off the bookshelf and told you about the Emperor and his clones.
Oh, and his consciousness, and he just sort of like
Yes.
pops into another one.
So I do wonder whether that's going to be a thing. Least intriguing moment? Trying to get if there's anything that you weren't so keen on.
Anything that flashes back to the last one.
Okay.
Sorry. Controversial.
It's alright. Would you like to ask me the same questions?
Oh yeah, same questions.
You're not going to ask me the questions.
I don't. It says I'm asking you the same questions.
Okay.
Most intriguing.
C-3PO and his I'm having one last look at my friends.
Well, he must be. How old is that robot now?
As old as you.
It's like a Nokia 3310. He just goes on and on and on.
But I'm just wondering why he has to give himself up. Is he saying goodbye because he's going to have to be turned off, destroyed? What's happening? How does that team up with the Red Eye version of C-3PO we saw in the last trailer?
Maybe he's got a virus.
He might have. He needs to install Norton. That's probably my most intriguing moment. The Death Star stuff I think looks really cool, but I feel like we've given too much away now. So we know it's the ruins of the Death Star from Last Jedi. From Return of the Jedi. It's quite clearly not on Endor, because, you know, the forest moon of Endor, and that's clearly a giant sea.
It might be perhaps when the Death Star crashed, it caused like a cataclysmic environmental disaster.
No, unfortunately it's not, because Disneyland in Florida or whatever it is, where the Star Wars exhibit is, has put out a press release saying they're updating their exhibit to include the locations from this film, and it mentions a new moon of Endor that we've not heard of before, which is where the Death Star crashed. I forget what it's called at the moment. Somebody will tell me off for it, but there's a name for it. So it's not on Endor, it's somewhere else. So no Ewoks.
Oh.
I know.
Well, good as well, because then they've not been wiped out by the...
Although she was running around the
cataclysmic
woods, so there's nothing to say that she doesn't go to Endor briefly on her way there. I do think that the ice planet with all the TIE fighters looks pretty cool, though.
event. Is that where the Emperor's chilling out?
Well, I presumed he was in the wreckage of the Death Star.
Oh, I thought he'd going to be chilling out in the AC Empire with that big, gnarly-looking chair.
There seems to be a lot of rumours that he is elsewhere, right in the Outer Rim. You know, the place where we don't really go to ever, and he's hiding out there rebuilding his army. Which could explain all the ships.
Coming out of the ice.
Yes. Anyway, next question.
But what didn't you like? I don't remember the questions.
I don't think there was anything I didn't like, to be fair.
Very good. What are you most looking forward to?
That version of the theme tune.
Oh, he's done a good job, old John.
He has. He's done an excellent job. That was not the soundtrack that I expected to hear in this trailer, and it was very well done.
But it's the soundtrack you deserved.
It was the soundtrack I deserved, yeah. It's difficult to digest, and obviously people have spoken about it a lot because it's been online for about a week and a half now. Sadly, it came out right after our last podcast. So I don't know that there's too much fresh that we can say to it, but there's a lot of callbacks to the films that come before it. There's obviously a lot of nods to Return of the Jedi, because this is, again, the third and final. You can see that Abrams is trying to steer it slightly back towards a more classic Star Wars feel than what Rian Johnson did.
Well, I suppose his was very classic of A New Hope anyway, wasn't it?
It was, so I feel like he was trying to create a new trilogy that emulated that trilogy. But then, obviously, people were saying that The Force Awakens was too much of a carbon copy. But then people said that, so they brought in a different director and did something totally different, and people said, it's shit.
You just can't win. I don't mind my nostalgia.
In this
strings being
age of the
pulled.
internet, you just can't win. Be interesting to see how Luke factors into this, because he's on the cast list. So presumably Force Ghost Luke. But who else is going to be back as a Force Ghost? Obviously Yoda, one would presume. Rumours that I can't remember his name. Hayden Christensen may be back and having filmed new scenes as Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost. Ewan McGregor, maybe.
Well, he's got his Obi-Wan film, hasn't he?
Series,
What was this? Oh, yes, on Disney, whatever.
Disney Plus.
That's the one.
So he could be back. I've seen a lot of people hoping that Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson, will return as a Force Ghost. Will Carrie Fisher end up a Force Ghost, or how will Leia get written out is a big question.
Or will she get written out?
I really like that she's received top billing on the poster as well. She's now top of the cast list, which is really quite sweet. Could Harrison Ford return as a Force Ghost? Probably not, because he was never a Jedi, but you never know what the film might throw at you. Anything else that you want to say about Star Wars before we move on?
No, I just think I'm very, very excited about it.
So, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, not Rise of the Skywalker as I keep calling it, is in cinemas from December the 19th, 20th, and you can book your tickets now. We are booked in to see it, not sadly at a midnight screening, because, we'll have work, so we're seeing it the following day.
Oh.
You could do a 3-part midnight screening.
Oh my god.
Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Last Jedi finishes at midnight, so you can see this at the second it's released.
We're going to have to do like a mass rewatch.
It starts very soon.
Or the rewatch? Have you planned it in?
Yes.
Oh.
Why do you sound disappointed?
No, I don't know. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised at the same time.
You shouldn't be surprised at all. Next story. This one's going to make you roll your eyes, so I'm going to watch and wait for it to happen. Arrow spin-off, Green Arrow and the Canaries, has started filming. So this is the series that's going to star Juliana Harkavy, so that's Dinah, Black Canary, and Katie Cassidy, so Laurel, Black Canary, and future Arrow daughter, Kat McNamara, and I can't remember her character's name now, forgettable female Green Arrow.
Forgettable Arrow.
Yes. Flarrow.
Beige Arrow.
I just don't think it's necessary.
No.
We don't have a lot of context to it at the moment, so there's been some preview artwork that was done to make it look like a comic book cover which had the three of them together, but now I understand there's a bit more context to it, that some of it will be in the future and some of it will be in the present, so
I
don't
bored
know.
Already.
So I don't know if it's going to be the Canaries in the present day and the Green Arrow in the future, or if post-Crisis on Infinite Earths her timeline's folded into our timeline and she's no longer in the future, she's in our time, or they're now in the future. I don't know. Either way, it's not something that I'm particularly interested in at this point in time. I will give it a chance when it's out. The pilot's going to be it's a backdoor pilot, so it's an episode of Arrow, so they're not filming it as it's the first episode in filming a new series. It's an episode of Arrow that's coming up.
I don't think they still did that. It's very 80s, isn't it?
What, backdoor pilots?
Yeah.
No, well...
It just makes me think of Golden Girls, I'm sorry.
The last big one that I can think of is something like Grey's Anatomy, doing private practice as a backdoor pilot.
Oh, in that fire program.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a very Shondaland thing. Supernatural's had 4 or 5 backdoor pilots, and not a single one of the shows has ever been picked up. We don't know that this has been picked up yet. That's not something that's been confirmed yet. It's just something that is now in production, so we'll have to wait and see. I just don't think there's a huge amount of mileage left in that future timeline. The Canaries, fair enough. Laurel has come into her own in this series so far, there's plenty that could be done there, and Dinah's a very interesting character, but I just don't think there's much that can be done with that trio.
I don't think we need an on-screen Birds of Prey and a small screen Birds of Prey. Would they get away with that?
I don't think you could call it that, because
it's almost like they're trying to do it. There's like a watered-down Birds of Prey.
Very heavily watered down.
It's like what's a small bird that's not a bird of prey? Pigeons of prey. It's the pigeons of prey.
Alright, okay. We're going to move on from that one. In other Arrowverse news, Batwoman has been picked up for a full season, so now it won't be shooting just 13 episodes, it's shooting the full 22. I'm on the fence about this one as well. I didn't really like episode 1. We still don't have time to talk about this because we have so many Titans to talk about. I thought it was alright on second watch. I thought episode 2 was better. I enjoyed episode 3, so I'm looking forward to episode 4, which we'll be watching tonight, hopefully. But I don't know whether it's a show that could be strung out that far unless they've got some major plans beyond Alice. Given that she doesn't seem to be the big bad, there needs to be something major going on for it to be able to stretch out that far. I felt like it could have worked better as a shorter story arc.
Yeah, I think 13 would have been better for Series 1. I'm not sure how they're going to eke this out to 22.
No. So watch this space on that one. Still no confirmed UK air dates for Batwoman either. So this is going to be a real problem for Crisis this year now, because Flash, Arrow and Supergirl all are obviously on Sky 1. There is no... and Black Lightning on Netflix. but there's no news on when Batwoman will actually be on the air here. So it's gonna be like the classic days of Buffy and Angel when they went out of sync, in that we might not get the full Crisis when we're supposed to get the full Crisis, or I don't know, they'll end up showing an episode of Batwoman and it'll be completely out of sync with the rest of the season.
It's a crisis within a crisis.
It is a crisis within a crisis. It is a crisis within a crisis. If only there was someone to solve it.
We need the monitor.
We do. Next on the news list, Wonder Woman. We finally have an idea when we'll see the first trailer for Wonder Woman 1984. So it's been announced that Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot will be at the CCXP convention in Sao Paulo, Brazil on the 8th of December.
I keep thinking this is coming out this year, but it's not, is it?
Nope, next June.
It always makes me really sad when I realise.
So Warner Brothers first up confirmed that Wonder Woman's going to be there. It's actually subsequently been confirmed that the cast of Birds of Prey are all going to be there as well. So it's going to be a big DC Warner Brothers event panel that closes this festival. But it's basically now all but confirmed that they'll be showing the first teaser for Wonder Woman 1984 during that panel. The press release for it as well has also confirmed that Pedro Pascal, who you remember from Game of Thrones.
Do I?
Yes. He was the man who got his head crushed by the mountain in a duel.
Oh, yes.
The guy that was in Buffy, of Human Bondage.
Oberon Martell.
That's the one.
I don't know the real names. I struggle.
He's also the main character in The Mandalorian, the Star Wars series on Disney+. The press release for Wonder Woman appearing at this convention has confirmed that he's playing Maxwell Lord.
Ooh.
Yes. Nice little DC deep cut.
Interesting.
Yes. Hopefully that trailer will give us our first look at Cheetah as well. That would be nice to see, because they've managed to keep that completely secret up to this point.
I'm interested to see how she plays Cheetah.
I'm interested to see how she plays dramatic.
I think there'll be a little bit of dramatic comedy in there.
Probably, yeah. Hopefully not akin to her performance in Ghostbusters.
Controversial. Maybe she'll do like a weird Michelle Pfeiffer thing and have a bath.
I hope not. That would be a bit weird. Last up in the news this week is Mortal Kombat 11, which is currently available on PlayStation and Xbox consoles. It's recently been announced that they were adding some new playable characters, including Joker, who's coming up early next year, and Spawn, but they've just launched the T-800, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger from Terminator, which was added just in time for Terminator Dark Fate to hit cinemas. You can pick that up as a DLC pack now. I got the chance to go and play this the other day, which was very much good fun. We got lots of Terminator goodies, which we might just have to give away at some point.
Ooh, giveaways.
Yeah.
We've got quite a lot in the giveaway cupboard.
Well, I got invited by 20th Century Fox to just sit down in game just off Oxford Street and basically spend an entire night just beating the living daylights out of every character going as Terminator. Couldn't quite think what to say there. Basically, I just played as Terminator for like 2 hours. Terminated. He's got some really cool moves. We discovered a fun one where so we were playing Terminator on Terminator, and there was a special move whereby you could melt Terminator's skin off and it just became the robot that was underneath, which was very cool.
Yeah, so I think the question here is, will you be back to play it again?
Yes, I absolutely will be back to play it again, and we'll be back later on to tell you about the film Terminator Dark Fate, which is in cinemas now. That is all for the news this week. Time to recap the rest of our visit to New York. We kind of ended this discussion last time at the end of Comic-Con. So, do you want to touch on what we did after Comic-Con?
Well, the fun did not stop. The fun continued.
On Selena Kyle's answering machine.
Yes, haha. What did we do afterwards? So we went up the Empire State.
We did, which was...
An experience.
An experience, to say the least.
Nope.
So last time we were there, we went up Rockefeller Center, didn't we? And we did that during the day. So we said, okay, if we're going back, then we'll go up the Empire State Building and we'll do it at night. So we went to the Nintendo store first with Nicola and Chris. Bought some merchandise. I bought all the t-shirts. I ran around the shop trying to avoid you as best I could so I could pick up more t-shirts without you knowing.
You did very well. Could you deposit me in the Pokemon section and disappeared?
I know my audience. And then unfortunately, by the time we got out of the shop, it was absolutely chucking it down. So we sort of hid for a little while, didn't we? Hoping that it might pass, which it didn't. It just got worse and worse and worse. And then we ran to TGI Fridays for some dinner.
It was a very interesting dinner, but we won't dwell on that.
No, if you want to hear the ins and outs of that dinner, go and listen to We Have a Hulk this week, because they tell the story very well of us ordering 3 strawberry lemonades and getting 3 glasses of water. But then we went up the Empire State Building, which was really fun, actually. It was cool up there. I got some awesome video footage that I need to download off my camera and look at it properly. But it was quite stormy, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I think, 89th floor?
Yes.
In the wind and the rain?
Yes.
Yeah. At one point, I honestly thought I was going to blow away.
It wasn't the kind of place where you wanted to open your umbrella.
But several people did.
Yes, and one poor girl was trying to take some really snazzy photos in a dress that was doing a Marilyn Monroe on her.
Thankfully, she managed to hold it down.
Because
that would have ended badly.
It would have ended very badly. I kept holding my camera over the edge of the building to try and get photos looking straight down to the street, which was... my testicles disappeared back inside my body on several occasions, just from looking over the edge.
I could barely stand upright because it was that windy. Then when I saw you put your hand out with your phone, I was like, I'm not buying you a new one. If that goes, then that's it.
I think if I dropped my phone off the end of the building, I probably would have killed someone.
Well, imagine if one of those umbrellas blew away as well.
Exactly. I got really cool
like
video.
Real life Mary Poppins.
I got really cool video looking up at the spire on the top of the building, though, and it looks like there's smoke swirling around it, but it's not. It's the clouds of the rain. It's really cool. And I didn't quite catch the full story on this, but they light the building up different colours at different times. So you noticed it was blue. It was lit up blue.
I didn't look up because it was so windy.
No, it was, if you looked down, it was lit up all blue right where we were.
I couldn't look down either. It made me want to vomit.
So they were saying it lights up different colours, and then that model that was in the foyer is also pre-lit to show the colour of the building for that day.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you were paying so much attention in that museum.
Well, nobody pays attention to the museum.
I did. So it was all lit up blue that night, so loads of my photos have got a weird smear across the lens because of the rain, but are also all blue and misty. It's quite cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that was Monday. What did we do on Tuesday?
We
went for a walk down to the Brooklyn Bridge.
We did. It was a very long walk. Never walked so much in my life.
No.
That was the walk of...
Shame?
Well, I was going to...
We walked through plenty of protests that day.
We did. It was all
non-violent environmental protests.
Yeah, it was environmental people.
Yeah.
Because they had those weird symbols. What were the people... What are they called?
Oh, Chaos Bleeds. No, that's a Buffy game.
It's a game.
Extinction Revolution.
Yes, it was them. Yeah, they were there. So that was interesting. We had nice pizza.
We had a lot of pizza. We had a lot of pizza that entire week.
Yeah. We were brave and did the subway.
We did do the subway, which was very random. Everyone tells you the subway's going to be really scary, and it wasn't. And I kept giggling because there was that guy singing RuPaul that was sat near me, and all I could hear was music from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah, it was interesting. And then we went to see Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. So, Beetlejuice the musical has been open for, 5-6 months maybe?
Yeah.
Got nominated for a bunch of Tony Awards, didn't win any though.
No, that's a shame.
But I picked this because I hate musicals. So it was my choice, because it was about the only thing that I felt I could stomach seeing. And you weren't really looking forward to this, were you?
No, I don't know. I had a bit of mixed feelings because I'm not a massive fan of the lead.
No, he's very energetic and doesn't quite have the rough edge of Michael Keaton.
I think it's a bit like Marmite.
But how were you feeling after you saw it?
I really liked it, to be honest with you. I was pleasantly surprised.
I loved it, and I hate musicals. It's so unusual for me to like a musical, but I loved every second of it.
Yeah, no, it was really good. I was very impressed with the staging and the close-up magic.
Yeah,
and all the little...
So it was some really cool set design. It was mainly just the living room in the house. So the Dietz house, well, it's not the Dietz house to begin with, is it? But obviously they pass away and then the Dietz move in. But that set changed interior design, 3 or 4 times? Yeah,
because there was all like lasers and projections and all that jazz. It was very clever.
There was a lot going on in terms of sleight of hand magic. So Beetlejuice snatched a piece of paper out of Lydia's hand and then threw it, and it burst into flame on stage. There was loads of stuff that was going on. It was really clever, and they also managed to reconstruct some of the monster moments from the film as well. So the giant sandworm was there.
Yeah, so he rode that a couple of times. That came out. That was quite impressive.
And then when they were doing the dinner scene, the hands rose up out of the plates and grabbed people's faces, and then somebody else was running around with a tray that then did the snake face thing, although he was facing away from us. But it was still really clever the way they created some of the moments in the film. They did change the story a bit though.
Yeah, it was quite a different change in the story. I wasn't a massive fan of the girl.
No, I guess she was maybe...
Lydia?
Yeah. Lydia. I guess she was maybe trying a little bit too hard to be strange and unusual.
I just find her a bit...
Broadway. The problem is I think the problem for that is that it's not a very Broadway story, but they were very Broadway actors, so they were still trying to bring that sort of happy clappy, handy wavy.
Nobody can see you doing that.
I know, I'm trying to. I can't think of the right words to say it.
Broadway.
Yeah.
Pizzazz.
Yes, they were trying to bring some pizzazz to a story that should be more goth and dour. I didn't mind them adding in the scene at the beginning just to show that Lydia's mum had passed away. That maybe added some context that you would get from the film, but maybe they didn't have time to do elsewhere in the film, so they needed you to know really quickly as to why she was how she was. I'm trying to think of some of the other major changes without spoiling too much.
She went after her mum in the underworld, so she had this whole thing about stealing the book.
Yeah, there was a bit more to that, wasn't there?
And the stepmom was totally different as well. She was a life coach.
Oh yeah, so the stepmom was a life coach that had been hired by the dad to try and help her through it, and they were sort of secretly having an affair.
Yeah, well, not really having an affair, they were just having a secret relationship.
Yeah. Well, obviously, yeah.
But I quite like. She was really good, actually.
She was a great actress. She was very funny.
She played Miss Argentina as well.
Yes.
Which was really good. I was very impressed how she got from green back to not green.
Yes.
Because that was proper makeup.
I was going to say, so obviously, like, chest, legs, arms could easily be like a body stocking, but then hands and face were all completely green.
And then she was like, "Pada! I'm not green anymore."
And she wasn't off stage for all that long. There must be a hell of a lot that goes on behind the scenes of that one. And then other bits, like when they crossed over to the underworld, you had the guy with the shrunken head, and that prop was actually moving from side to side, and his little eyes were moving and everything.
And they had the full football team, but it was only one man.
Yeah.
Because it was all like...
It was all on strings.
Like that classic... What's that?
Like foosball.
Yeah. What was the program called? You remember the program? That program.
Friends? They had a foosball table?
No, the one on a Saturday night where they did all like the Generation Game. It was very Generation Game.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just making that up.
No, I suppose I can see what you mean.
Like, oh, quick, see if you can make this line of 10 people dance. I've gone weird. Moving on.
You've gone weird. Good music as well. I can't say I've listened to the whole soundtrack since we left it, but there's a few songs that I've definitely listened to a handful of times since we saw it.
I don't think it's not a soundtrack that I would actively go back and listen to.
Okay. I hope it's something that comes to London eventually. It's something that more people deserve to see rather than it just being on Broadway.
Yeah, it was very good. I would recommend it.
I would definitely see it again.
And I'd also recommend the diner next door.
Would you like to mention Ellen's Stardust Diner?
It's like the most magical place in the world, outside of Disneyland.
You've never been to Disneyland?
Well, so I'm told.
So Ellen's Stardust Diner has been around for, 50-odd years?
Yeah,
and
it's been a long time.
It's kind of a breeding ground for new Broadway actors who are jobbing, basically. So whilst they're auditioning and no doubt waiting tables, they're waiting tables in a restaurant where they can sing all the time.
It was hilarious.
There was a lot of confetti.
There was a lot of confetti. Thank God I watched the YouTube video first, otherwise my lemonade would have been ruined.
And I was glad that they didn't just do songs from the musicals.
Yeah, I wanted more songs from the musicals.
You, Nicola, and Chris were all a bit disappointed by the amount of pop songs.
Yeah.
You wanted more
Disney.
Disney.
Not quite good though. I quite liked the Titanic one. That was my favorite.
That was very funny, yes.
So it was like it was on a split level, so the girl was up on the like mezzanine level, and when they hit the iceberg, there was a little man underneath her with a leaf blower blowing up to give the effect that, she was a wind blowing, and then they were throwing straws and confetti and stuff at her. It was very good.
It was excellent, actually, and I hate that song, but it was a very good rendition.
Yeah, I could have done without the every hour they go around with a bucket asking for money.
It's a shame because obviously you're in America, so you know that waiters and waiting staff don't get paid very well. But we already know we're going to be paying a tip. So we're already paying for dinner, we're already paying a tip for them to come around with a bucket and say we want more of your money to help us pay for tap classes. That was probably one of the most expensive meals purely based on the amount of money that we had to give on top of how much we were paying for food.
Yeah. And I don't mind that. I mean, fair enough, they're all jobbing and you need extra money, but put like a little bucket at the door or something.
Yeah.
Don't have like a big rant about it every hour. Because at one point I was like, oh, you're really, really labouring this a bit too much now.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember, he was like, oh, I was in Mamma Mia 20 years ago and now here I am, give me money. I'm like, well.
I don't think he quite said give me money, but yeah, it was a case of, you can be really successful and then you can not be successful, and you could go from being a waiter to being a Broadway actor to being a waiter again in 5 minutes. So we're always trying to learn new skills to help us push our careers forwards. Help however you can.
And we did, and we enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yes, we
And
did.
I would love to go back, but you wouldn't let me.
Had to vary the food that we ate.
And we had to queue for like a good hour and a half before we got in.
Yes, this is not somewhere that takes bookings, so you have to queue and wait until you can get in. Interesting queuing system, though.
I felt really sorry for the couple at the table next to us because the wife clearly knew what it was and the husband did not.
I did not notice that.
And he was not enjoying it.
Oh dear. Well. Okay, that leads us to Wednesday, which was our final day. That was the day we left.
It was. That was probably the wettest day.
That was the day of all the rain.
But it was the day we then decided to do the movie tour.
And buy all the Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise from Vans.
Yes.
But yes, movie tour. That's the most important part. What do we see? Highlights of the movie tour.
So the Friends building again.
Yep.
And there's a very wet picture of the four of us.
Yes, there's a very, very wet picture of the four of us
in
looking.
the rain.
Well, it's quite funny because you have your umbrella, and you seem slightly chuffed with the fact that you've got an umbrella. Chris looks like some sort of Eskimo with his hood up. Nicola looks a bit like she probably doesn't want to be there because it's absolutely chucking it down, but at the same time it's Friends, so it's quite exciting. And I just look like me. I don't even have a hood up. I'm just stood in the rain without an umbrella being like, hi, I'm here.
Oh, I didn't really want to put the umbrella down because what people missed was like the 50 pictures that was taken at that time whilst the queue of traffic in the middle of the road was trying to get past us.
Yes.
And the lady was just like, oh, smile. I'm like, come on. It's
Yes.
raining and there's traffic.
It was a good laugh, though.
Yeah, it was good. I thought most of it was on a bus, which was fine. It was just the moment you had to get out the bus. I was like,
Yeah. So we started off with the house from I Am Legend, where Will Smith lives during the film, and that's on Washington Square Park. Went to the Friends building. There was a lot of like Seinfeld and
so much
Sex and the
Seinfeld.
City and stuff like that.
went to the Home Alone Hotel.
Home Alone Hotel. Obviously the ice rink from the end of Home Alone 2 in Rockefeller Center. What was your favourite bit, though?
Oh, the Ghostbusters. That was the best bit.
So the last time we were in New York, the
knew?
Ghostbusters firehouse was under some kind of reconstruction works. It was under scaffolding, wasn't it? So we couldn't really see the building, whereas this time it was open. And actually you can go in. So they're completely open to the public. If the doors are open, they welcome people to go in and have a look around and take photos. And they also sell T-shirts because their firehouse logo now has the Ghostbusters ghost incorporated into it.
So they've got the original Ghostbusters sign that was in the film. It's inside the fire station on the wall.
Yes.
And it's a working fire station. Who knew? Yeah.
It's been working for over 100 years.
Yeah.
It's never stopped.
But I love the fact that they've embraced it. So they've got the logos. They've got their own special Ghostbusters FDNY logo on the ground outside with their own special T-shirts. Which is really nice because if you buy a T-shirt, it then goes into the Firefighters Fund.
It does. Also saw lots of locations from Spider-Man. So you got the Flatiron Building, which is the Daily Bugle. We saw a few places from both Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man as well as Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Didn't really... Oh, Avengers. So I didn't realise that Washington Square Park was also from Avengers Infinity War.
Oh yeah, with the big fight with the...
It's where Tony's walking with Pepper. And then where the big fight first ensues when Spidey first kind of gets into the action. So that was pretty cool. But very, very, very wet. So we immediately went from there with soaking wet feet to buy new shoes. Because neither of us wanted to fly with wet feet. And then we had to sit in the hotel lobby for a good hour and a half waiting for our hotel transfer. And that was it. Our New York adventure was over.
And then we were back home, back to work.
Back to routine. But that sort of segues nicely into the next thing that I was going to talk about, which was the first screening that we went to after we got back, which was for Zombieland, Double Tap, sequel to the 2009 original.
Which I had never seen until...
The day before. So before we talk about this one, let us have a little sneaky peeky trailery moment.
It's been 10 years since the zombie apocalypse.
Oh my God, we're back again.
And this dysfunctional family
Merry Christmas!
Do you know what I would like?
I don't give a fuck what you like.
has survived by using their wits.
Please forgive me!
and by following the rules.
Rules are for pussies, nothing personal.
How could that not be personal? That's like my whole thing.
Yeah, you're right, it was personal.
On October 18,
What made you do it? And don't say the script.
Can this be just between us? Drugs cost money.
Didn't see that coming, right?
New kind of zombies, stronger, faster, better adapted to the hunt.
They're much more afraid of us than we are of them.
You'll be the first to die, but I like your enthusiasm.
You might die.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
from the director of Venom.
Need a ride?
Oh, yeah.
And writers of Deadpool.
Casablanca.
Oh, God.
Well, I think I would have made a damn fine president.
I think those cigars were left over from the Clinton administration.
Academy Award nominee Woody Harrelson.
Let's kick some dick.
Academy Award nominee Jesse Eisenberg.
Right now?
Right now.
Academy Award nominee Abigail Breslin.
You don't have weed, do you?
And Academy Award winner Emma Stone.
What the fuck?
Zombieland Double Tap.
Time to nut up or shut up. That saying's very 2009.
Zombieland Double Tap is in cinemas globally, in fact, now. It's directed by Ruben Fleischer, who directed the first film, but also directed Venom. It stars Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin. This film also introduces some new characters. So you've got Zoe Dutch as Madison, your new favourite character. You've got, I'm going to have to pronounce this right, Avan Jogia as Berkeley. And my favourite, which would be Rosario Dawson as Nevada. You also got a little cameo from Luke Wilson and Thomas Middleditch, not Middlemitch, Middleditch, who play Albuquerque and Flagstaff.
There's also another good cameo, but you have to wait until the very end to see that one.
Not the cameo from What's-Her-Face, who I cannot stand.
Oh, not her, the other one. Although she's in it, but nobody cares about that.
Well, I'm not going to mention her name, mainly because I can't remember it, because I've completely forgotten about her
Well, you
existence.
don't give her more press.
No. That's good. That sounds like a huge tease for people to stay to the end of the credits now. Say the end of the trailer. So, as you just said, you hadn't seen the first one until the day before. I had seen this one before, but I hadn't seen it for a little while, so it was good to do a refresh before we saw it. What did you think of the original then?
It was alright. I'm not a massive fan of Jesse, what's his face?
Eisenberg.
I just find him, I don't know, he just seems to play the same person over and over again.
Yep.
And then you made me see that play with him when I didn't like him in the play.
Because he played the same character?
Well, I think he played the same, it was like worse. He was like really irritating.
Okay.
And I was just like, oh, it's him again. But I actually really liked this film.
I wouldn't say I don't like him. I wouldn't say I'm his biggest fan. I'm still on the fence about his Lex Luthor. I enjoy him in stuff like The Social Network, and I can't think what else I've seen him in. I enjoyed that play as well, although it was a bit
pointless.
No, I was going to say more. I don't want to say egocentric. That sounds really terrible because I don't want to call him arrogant. That's not what I mean. But it very much was centered on him and him being himself, being that character.
Egocentric.
But I do really like him in both Zombieland and this film. I think he's really likable in this.
I really liked the film. I didn't mind him in it.
So you prefer this second one to the first one?
I did, actually. I thought it was funnier.
Interesting. I think it's probably on the same level. I hadn't reviewed the first one because it goes way back before this whole Geico venture existed. I think I probably would have given the first one like an 8 or a 9. I'd give this one a 7 or an 8. I think it's on par. It certainly makes use of a bigger budget.
It does. I must admit, I'm not a fan of scary films, and although I watched the first one thinking, oh, this isn't scary, at one point I was like, oh, this is getting a bit too much for me.
You got a bit stressed at one point, did you not, in Act 3, when there was a rather large horde?
I was like, this is getting a bit too...
I was starting to twitch in my seat thinking, you're going to absolutely shit yourself in a minute.
I wouldn't be that bad. I would pretend to be brave because I was in a room full of people.
Running away.
I just moaned about it later.
Run through the door, leaving like a mountain-shaped hole in the door.
Oh, I've got to go to the bathroom. And cry.
Okay, so favourite character in this one
then? Woody...
Harrelson.
I always like him. I think he's really funny.
He is very funny, yes.
I always love him. Everything I've seen him in, I've always found him funny. I don't know. Grammar is shocking tonight.
So that's Tallahassee.
Yeah. Film good.
Do you like Tallahassee because you both have a love of Twinkies?
Oh, I was so angry. So when we went,
that's why I mentioned it.
Oh, you've brought back all these angry memories now. You promised me pizza and refreshments, and there was one tray of Twinkies. And that
Sony
poor
promised
girl,
me pizza and Twinkies. I didn't realise that there was going to be sort of a couple of people serving a very small tray of food.
God, I thought she was about to be attacked. She looked like she was being chased by a horde of hungry zombies.
The poor girl was being chased around the room by people that wanted to eat a tray of Twinkies.
And it made me angry because one girl got one and then she threw it away because she didn't like it.
I know.
I was like, I would have ate that. Not if she nibbled on it. Ooh.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. It's not
Favourite
important.
new character?
Favourite new character? Do you know... You keep saying Madison, but she was quite funny.
You don't try and deny it. You love the airhead.
Yeah.
They remind you of you.
You remind me of me. Very dare you.
The only thing I felt with her character was, and I said it to you, didn't I? I whispered it to you during the film, which was, I know exactly what's going to happen here.
It was a bit obvious, but then it's not really a film that makes you think.
No, but I mean, the first one is completely original in what it did, because, and I said this in my review of this one, when the first one came out, The Walking Dead wasn't even a thing yet. The Walking Dead didn't premiere until, a couple of years later. And this, instead of being a spoof zombie film, it's not a spoof at all. It's a genuine comedy in a zombie world. It takes shots at other zombie medium, but at the same time takes itself seriously when it needs to. And I think they managed to recreate that in this one as well.
I like how they try to explain away certain things, like, oh yes, it rains, therefore
the dams still work,
full,
and so we still have power.
We still have power, yay.
Yeah, but they know when to do stuff like that to gloss over it, because this isn't the kind of film that needs to get bogged down in detail, and when to spend more time on something funny. So it's just a little bit disappointing that with her character, they did something that was so obvious.
But then they needed it for the story, so
yeah.
And it's fine. It was funny.
Not that you asked, but my favourite character would obviously be Wichita.
Yeah. Why?
You're looking at me as if to go, I don't know which one that is.
I don't remember.
Because it's Emma Stone, and I love Emma Stone.
Oh, Emma Stone, right, okay. Gwen Stacy.
Yes. There we go. That poor little hamster in your brain's running, like there's smoke coming out of your ears while you're like, who is that? Who is that? Who is that?
I've had a very busy day. Leave me be. Although as we sit here, I smile because on the wall behind you is a picture of you being attacked by a zombie.
In a revolving door, yes. Thank you very much.
Brings back
no one needs to hear that story.
Brings back good memories.
Thank you very much. Move swiftly along.
Do you not want to? We've mentioned it now. You have to tell them.
No, if anybody wants to know the story of me in a revolving door with a zombie, then tweet me.
No, don't tweet him. Tweet me because he'll just lie.
Okay, if anybody wants to hear the story of me shut in a revolving door with a zombie, tweet at BoyWonder1989. He will tell you it quite gladly.
So, moving on.
Moving swiftly on from that one. Highlight moment of the film?
I can't remember it. It was all funny. There wasn't a joke that I can think of at this moment in time.
Okay.
I just enjoyed it.
Very good.
It was a right royal romp.
Okay then. Once again, not that you asked, but my highlight moment would be during the third act final battle, when everything and all hope is lost, when couldn't remember the character name for a minute then, when Nevada comes charging through the horde in a ridiculously massive monster truck,
yeah.
and mows everything down. I just love Rosario Dawson. I just see her and think Wonder Woman, just because she's voiced her for so long.
Oh yeah, she's a very Wonder Woman like, isn't she?
I don't think there's anything she's ever been in that I've not liked her in. So,
and I liked her character with
Tallahassee,
because they had a very good relationship.
Rapport.
God, I can speak.
I didn't think he could be much funnier than he was in the first one, but once you put him in Graceland and Elvis Town, it was bloody hilarious. Fair play to them for that action scene that was pretty much one take as well. I think there were a couple of times when they mocked that it was one take and it wasn't, but it certainly was made to look like one take for almost the entire thing, and it was almost like watching Kingsman for a minute, actually, in that respect, that scene. If you want to read my full review of Zombieland, double tap, It's available now at getyourcomiccon.co.uk. Any final thoughts on that one? You want to say something? Sorry, before I cut you off.
I was going to ask you a question and say what your scores on the doors were, but you keep throwing some shade at me, being like, "Oh, well, I asked myself the questions."
Well, you're not very good at asking the questions, so
because you're just so good at talking.
Oh, thank you very much. My review score for this one was 7 out of 10. I said Zombieland, double tap, is gory, irreverent, and unequivocally hilarious. A surprisingly original and, at times, heartfelt sequel which honours the original and pushes its boundaries.
I asked you for a score, not,
A thesaurus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thus proving my point that you like to chat.
Moving swiftly onwards. Is it time? Is it time for the Titans?
Oh God, I don't know if I've got the energy, but we'll just go for it.
Okay.
I don't think we can talk about them individually because we'll be here for years.
So at this exact point in time, don't look at the time code below. At this very moment in time, as we are recording with all of our bluffs, burps, farts, and laughing, we're at 43 minutes and 20 seconds.
Only some of them are from me.
So we will try and do this in a sort of Speed Titans manner, because we just need to get up to date, because then in 2 weeks' time it'll be back to normal and we won't feel like we have to do 1,000,001 things in every podcast, because we'll have caught up with life. So, Season 2, Titans, Episode 4. Episode 4 was Aqualad. So this was the flashback episode where we first met Garth. How did you feel about this episode?
Oh, so sad.
Do you feel like they squandered the character slightly?
Yes.
Do you think that could be because they will bring in Calderam down the line?
Well, they could have kept them both. Because they could have just grew him up and made him Tempest.
They could have, yep.
Because we're going to grow Dick up to be Nightwing.
Yes, we certainly are.
It's very sad. I understand why they do it, because Donna needed a bit of a,
Is the relationship between... What are you suggesting that Donna needed?
She needed a bit of, bit of fight in her.
Okay.
Not anything else.
Well.
Oh my God.
Jesus. Is the relationship between Garth and Donna something from the comics?
I'm not sure. I've not actually...
So at this point in time, not anything that you've read?
Not anything from new comic. Garth's not in sort of the later versions.
No.
He was in Titans Hunt for a bit.
Yep.
But then he sort of disappeared again. He went away.
Okay. Yeah. I liked I liked it tying the pair of them together. It seemed to work. There was some quite good chemistry between the two actors, and it certainly helped give her some angst to deal with the whole idea of, do I go back to Themyscira? Am I staying here? I quite like the character of Julia as well, the handler.
I do like that. I quite like their relationship together, just because that whole Themyscirian Atlantean love triangle.
Yeah.
Two tribes.
Go to war?
Yes, in theory they could go to war, yeah. But I quite like that sort of mythical backgroundness. That was all cool.
Okay. So how do you feel about... do we have to give spoilers? It was on TV like 5 weeks ago. How do you feel about the fact that it was Deathstroke that killed him off? Do you think that was slightly cheapening the story of Deathstroke to just amp up the fact that he's a villain, or...
Yeah, I mean, they could... I mean, he doesn't need to kill Gar to...
It's Garth. Gar would be Beast Boy.
Yeah.
I suppose hindsight being a beautiful thing, 5 weeks later where we've just watched episode 8, there's a lot more context to what happened in that scene now.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I can understand why they were setting up, and it gives them a bit more sort of background to the whole rivalry and the arch-nemesisness of it all.
Did we get to see enough of Garth interacting with the rest of the Titans?
No, I would have liked to have seen sort of more of him like suiting up and them fighting all together.
Yeah, there were some good sequences though. Some of the stuff where they went after kind of Dr. Light version 1, I liked seeing Garth use his powers. I didn't think that we were going to get to see that much of him manipulating water. I said to you quite early on when we were watching it, are we ever going to see him underwater? And funnily enough, we didn't.
It's probably why they got rid of him really quickly, because his power set is quite expensive.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine it would be quite expensive.
Well, yeah, to do a lot of underwater filming, I would imagine, yeah. But what we got to see of him was still good. It was just the same. It was just a shame that it was so short-lived, really. It
was still very well done, though, and it ticked all the Titans boxes for me.
Scores out of 10?
9.
Very good. Moving on to episode 5, which was entitled Deathstroke. So we go back to the present day and we pick up with what happened after Jason Todd was kidnapped at the end of episode 3. What do you think of this one?
I like this one. So again, we're building up the drama between Deathstroke and the team, and we're hinting back to all this, oh God, don't get involved, he's a bad man sort of thing. And then it's almost like things are repeating themselves. So
yeah, there's some interesting mirrors in this episode.
Where Dick feels like he's got to solve the problem by himself. He doesn't want to drag the
He
team
always
down
seems
again.
to feel like he needs to solve the problem by himself.
It's the weight of the world on his shoulders.
It is. He needs to let it go.
But we got the return of Corey, which is always good.
Yep, good to see her back in the fold.
Back in
I
the team.
really enjoyed how she balanced out everyone's attitude on Rose, because she was an outsider at that point and hasn't been privy to too much of what the others' interpersonal relationships were like, but also hasn't really met Rose before. And it's interesting to see how, even though she's the least involved with any of these people, that actually she's the most level-headed. I really enjoyed the conversation in the training room where it was, should we kill her? Should we give her over? Should we keep her? What do we need to do? And it was interesting seeing how each person fell on which side of the argument they fell on.
Yeah, I quite like that. So that old classic dynamics of, the state that the team's been left in after the events that are being alluded to.
Do you not feel like the ghosts have been kind of hanging over this a little bit too much, given that we don't really get to see the events of that final end to that version of the Titans till episode 8?
It is a bit convoluted, I suppose. It's all a bit cloak and dagger, and there's all these sort of, we go back in time, then we come back to the present, then we go back in time again.
Yeah, so at this point in the season we've had 2 flashback episodes. By the time we get to episode 8 we've had 3.
And then it gets a bit like flashback within a flashback within a flashback.
It does, it goes all Inception on your ass.
But we're not talking about that because that's...
We need to get there, yes. I really enjoyed the fight scene between Rachel and Rose in this episode. It was nice to see Rachel get to do something other than just be inside the tower. I felt like I was going to liken her to another character, but I don't really know who I could liken her to. She just seems to be a bit of a voice of reason, and a bit like Gar in a way, a little bit lost, and just sort of seems to be existing inside that tower at the moment and doesn't really go anywhere.
Well, I suppose she's got her own demons that she's dealing with at the minute.
True, she very much does.
Or just the one. And we see that quite substantially, really, when she tries to take down Rose and takes her down just a bit too hard.
Could we be alluding to the fact that Trigon isn't dead and is trying to exert some kind of control over her from inside the gem?
Well, I mean, she's always been part demon anyway.
Yep.
So I suppose Trigon putting the gem or moving stuff around, because it was always there anyway, it was a heart.
He can't just let Trigons be Trigons.
Moving on. So I think she just needs to sort of learn to control her demon side, because the whole part in the comics is where she goes off to the other dimension and trains with Azar and learns all her meditation and stuff. And that's when we get the old Matrions and Thoth.
Azarath
Matrions and Thoth. Which I'd really love that t-shirt, by the way. Christmas is coming.
Okay. Noted.
So I think that there's a big bit missing there where she needs to go away and learn how to control her stuff.
You realise that people are now going to ask me when it gets to Christmas if I bought you that t-shirt.
Exactly, that's why I said it.
You've just backed me into a corner.
You watch this Twitter space, kind listeners. If you do not see me in a Raven S t-shirt after Christmas, you know.
I'm still worried about how much I got in trouble for the fact that you weren't at MCM this weekend. I didn't get the first time I watched this episode that Rose was dead. I mean, I know she's only dead for a second.
Squished.
I don't know why, but I didn't get that. I know she got thrown up against the wall, and I thought they were going to have a moment of, oh God, I think we're going to think that she's dead, but I hadn't realised. Like, again, spoilers, but shortly after that, when all her bones start to knit, and it's like you get that gross horror kind of moment where everything clicks back into place. I didn't feel like when she hit the wall, she was as mashed as she then appeared to be when she fixed herself afterwards.
Well, I suppose it's magic.
It's magic.
What else can you say? It's magic.
And what are you scoring this episode out of 10?
8.
I gave this one a 9. So I said Titans is developing a penchant for cliffhangers, featuring characters in precarious situations, but we can't wait to see how Jason gets out of this one.
Somebody's been accessing the thesaurus on word.
Thesaurus?
Thesaurus.
Deathstroke is another episode featuring some luscious storytelling and stellar fight choreography.
Definitely using the thesaurus.
Was there anything about this episode you didn't really like?
No.
I love the ending and that fight scene between Dick and Deathstroke, and then with Corey involved as well. I thought was excellent. Another moment when Titans really showed its fight choreography. My only thing is, and again, this is probably once again knowing what I know, having seen the next episode after this, but I don't understand why this season's had so many episodes where people end on a knife edge.
It's a bit drama, really, isn't it?
Jason kidnapped, Jason dropped off a building, a character who we'll talk about in a second getting shot at the end of the next episode. It just feels like it's a little bit of a crutch that at the end of an episode it's almost like they feel like if they don't do something that's a bit of a I need to see what happens next moment, then we'll all go, oh, okay, might watch the next one.
Well, that'll never happen.
Well, no, exactly. That's my point. There's enough going on with the storytelling in this series that you don't need to do something potentially controversial or repetitive that you think is really exciting at the end of every episode to keep us coming back. We're already bought in. And I don't feel like anybody's going to come into it at this episode as someone new. Because it's not like it's on network TV. So it's not the kind of thing where you're going to be flicking around channels and go, oh, what's this? And watch it and then think, oh, that was a kind of kick-ass ending. I need to know what happens next. Even though it's on Netflix in this country, again, you're still not going to come into it at this point. So it feels like for the kind of show that it is and for the way that it's distributed, it doesn't need to be doing this kind of thing to keep itself interesting. Just my only little bugbear with this season so far, really.
It's never really bothered me. I quite like it. So.
All right, then.
And we all knew he wasn't going to die anyway, because, where was the crowbar?
On to episode 6, which was called Connor.
Again, so we get a dramatic end.
Yes.
With very little resolution. But we do get resolution, sorry. Ignore me. But it was a damn good episode.
It was a damn good episode, wasn't it? This is possibly my favourite episode of Titans.
Ever?
Possibly, yeah.
That's a bold statement.
So, why do you love this episode?
Even better than Donna.
Yeah, I would say better than Donna, yeah. Tell us why you like this episode. Break the dramatic tension.
So that's it was really good. I love Connor. I love a bit of Superboy. It was very nostalgic with Crypto.
Crypto almost stole the show, really.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be telling that dog off.
Remember the tagline for the Christopher Reeve Superman? You'll believe a man can fly. What are we all saying now? You'll believe a dog can fly.
And have laser eye beams.
And catch a rocket and throw it back out the window.
He's a very clever dog. Man's best friend.
I'm really, really glad that they didn't wimp out with that character. Connor we'll get to in a second. But you can easily imagine that conversation in the writer's room where they go, well, we've tried to keep the show relatively grounded in some respect. We're not shying away from the fact that Corey's an alien and that there are superpowers involved. But in terms of the human relationships, this show is very grounded and, it can be very violent, it can be very dark. So actually, can we do an alien dog? Or can we do this dog that's got Kryptonian powers? Or do we just have him, there's a dog that they experimented on and maybe he's got some glowy green eyes but doesn't really do much and we'll call him Crypto. And they didn't. They gave him his full power set and he is like a cartoon character but thrown in the middle of this series. And I think it's, I don't know, I'm just really proud of them for doing that and not backing down and doing something more watered down.
He just needs a little cape.
He does just need a little cape. I also quite like the relationship between Connor and the dog. They, I feel like there's a genuine bond between the two of them.
A boy and his dog.
So there's a lot going on in this one. We got Eve Tessmacher, who we're also seeing in Supergirl. It's less said about Supergirl the better, although at this point. No Lex Luthor. No, but we do get to see Lionel Luthor and Mercy Graves.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it. I liked the fact it was nice to see what could have been in the difference between Connor and Clark.
Yes.
And how sort of that sort of nature nurture type thing where he goes back to Smallville but he goes to the
Luther house.
The Luther house instead of the Kents.
Yep.
And then the flashback memories of Lex getting beaten and how that is impacting on his understanding of the world and how he's grown up.
Yeah, I don't feel like Young Justice played too much on the fact that Connor has two sets of memories in his head. I quite liked that there was some sort of confusion between the Clark memories and the Lex memories.
Yeah, it was good. Then it's something... It's an interesting one to do, because I know they sort of played around with Superboy, the sort of the iterations of him, because sometimes he's got psychic ability, sometimes he doesn't.
Oh, really?
So like the newer version of Superboy, the new mix.
Yep.
Had telekinetic powers and all that stuff.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Because he wasn't a mix of Lex Luthor. He was
somebody else.
Completely genetically modified.
Okay.
He was a mix of 3.
Interesting.
Whereas this is a very more classic Superboy with...
It is. Classic costume.
Clark and Lex.
Yeah. This I just felt like this episode threw a hell of a lot of DC lore at the wall and everything stuck. Nothing fell. Nothing didn't work.
He's just missing a leather jacket and some awful sunglasses.
He was. I liked this version of Lionel as well. I knew that Lionel Luthor was going to be in the episode. I hadn't realised he was going to be this kind of frail shell of a man. I almost expected something Smallville-like from Lionel. And even watching the episode, I thought at some point there's going to be a turn here. And it's going to be a setup that, the house was there ready and waiting for Connor to get there. And that actually, that Lionel was going to turn around and, whip out some kryptonite and would turn out to be the Lionel that I know from Smallville era. So I really liked that they did something quite unique with that character there.
Bit of vulnerability.
Yeah, very much so. And whether Lex will follow, I don't know. That could be an interesting twist at some point.
Well, we'll get to Superman as well.
That's the thing. I don't know how we're going to deal with the fact that this Superboy now exists and people will soon know about him.
We've got Bruce, so why can't we have Clark?
Yep, this is very true.
Coming in as a father figure.
There was basically nothing I didn't like about this episode. Genuinely, very, very little I didn't like, if anything, that I didn't like about this episode.
Again, another sort of cliffhanger ending.
I think that's why I gave it a 9 out of 10 rather than a 10 out of 10.
I did scream at the TV thinking, no, don't do what they did to Garth. Aqualad.
You're in trouble telling the difference between Beast Boy and Aqualad.
No, it's just pronunciation.
Damn Scottish accent. I do think another one of this... Well, I'm not going to call it lazy writing. Off the top of my head, I was going to call that lazy, but that's not fair. Another one of the sort of cliches of the season would be the fact that I felt like it was pretty obvious how we were going to save Jason, knowing that the next episode was called Connor.
Yeah.
They ended up slightly giving it away in the synopsis because they said that an event would bring Connor in touch with the Titans. But even before I'd read that, I felt like it was pretty obvious that the only way Jason was going to survive that fall was going to be if he got caught by Superboy.
Which is just as well, because, crowbar.
Crowbar, yeah. But you're right, that ending to the episode was a little bit hammy in that it was another cliffhanger ending with another hero kind of life in the balance. Score for this one?
9.
That's 3 9s in a row.
No, I gave the last one 8.
Oh yeah, you did. I gave the last one a higher score. So I said Connor throws as much DC lore at Titans as it can in order to bring the character to life. It's beautifully paced, emotionally charged, and an instant classic for the series. Next, episode 7. So this episode was called Bruce Wayne. Now this was flipping hilarious. Need I say more?
It was quite funny, I'll have to admit. Dare I ask what your favourite part of the episode was?
Easy. Bruce Wayne doing the Bat-2C in a burlesque club. Hands down. Not something I ever thought I would see, ever thought I would have to say in a podcast.
I'm very impressed that old...
Ian Glenn,
it's going to call him Sir Jorah, was able to pull out those moves.
Perfectly as well. I knew what it was instantly. As soon as he lifted his arms up, it was like he's doing the Bat-2C. Although I'm very disappointed by how much I've had to explain what the Bat-2C is. A lot of people are like, oh, the Adam West dance. The Bat-2C.
Bat-2C.
It's the Bat-2C.
I I think, again, I've got a picture of you doing the Bat-2C.
Yes, thank you very much. Move swiftly on. I think probably the most impressive thing about this episode was how much it completely managed to pull the rug out from underneath you based on what you would have expected the episode to be. Well, I mean, I must have told you that this episode was called Bruce Wayne.
Yes.
So what were your expectations?
That Dick was going to go back to Bruce for some help and advice? After being smacked down.
Yep, absolutely. And he didn't. There wasn't a single actual scene between Bruce and Dick. Not a real Bruce.
Not a real Bruce, no. It was all the inner Bruce.
So I guarantee there were people that were watching this that hated the fact that that wasn't a stereotypical characterization of Bruce, but that wasn't Bruce. That was the Bruce in Dick's head. That was a manifestation of all of his insecurities having a good old pop at him when he was having a breakdown. That's my only thing. Was he having a breakdown?
No, I don't think he's having a breakdown. He's probably just having a crisis of self. It's like, oh God, I've got another team.
A what?
A crisis of self.
A crisis? A crisis is coming.
Yes, coming. Crisis. Anyway, I just think he's sort of questioning his ability as a leader and who he is and what he's going to do next, because he's not Robin anymore, so what is he?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of an identity search, wasn't it?
Is he camp counselor? Because he's not done a very good job of that.
It was just brilliant. I really hadn't expected it, and it was great to see Titans do something that was a comedy episode. Even though it had its serious moments, and there was still a serious story about Dick going and finding Wintergreen and then trying to find Deathstroke, and how that led to what happened with Jason on the rooftop at the very, very end, which was probably one of Titan's most emotional moments to date. But there was just so much to enjoy with this episode.
I agree. What were your scores on the door?
Oh my God, you're pushing me through this one, aren't you? 9 out of 10. Bruce Wayne completely defies expectations and becomes one of Titan's most heartfelt and comedic episodes to date.
Very good.
There's nothing else you feel like you want to say about this one? I think the Jason Todd aspect of this episode was massive for this series.
Yeah, I mean, it's showing all his insecurities and vulnerabilities as well.
There's a question of whether he's been programmed in that time he was with Deathstroke.
No, because then that makes sense, because he's having... I understand it now, so he's having flashbacks to Fallen.
Yeah.
So he wasn't really being programmed. When he was first
You think it was PTSD in a way?
Yeah, he's got a bit of PTSD.
And the thing that I need to know now, which I guess we'll get this week from being back in the present day, is about Deathstroke being in Titan's Tower and who was actually leaving those little notes for people to find to screw with their heads.
Well...
You have a theory?
Could there be some sort of...
I've got a theory. It could be Deathstroke.
I was going to say it could be Jericho.
Well, it could be... That's the thing. It could be Jericho.
Hopping around from body to body.
He could be. Are we going to have to go back through the whole season to look for little shimmers of Jericho running around?
Maybe. You never know. It's unlikely.
Fair enough. I felt like that was left a little bit too open for my liking. But it all depends what happens in the next episode, I guess.
I think it's just about PTSD. He'll be fine.
Was this the episode... See, now they're all blown into one. This was the episode with the weird sexy dance with Rose, wasn't it? Yes, because then she found the vinyl record.
Yeah, then she's like, oh my God, this is my brother's.
That felt a little bit on the dirty side. But
yeah, it was a bit like...
At the same time, I suddenly realised I'm old, and that probably is what teenagers act like. And they are teenagers.
Yeah, it was a bit... I didn't...
You didn't need to see Jason Todd do a sexy dance.
No.
That too awkward for your dad viewership.
It was, yeah. Very untasteful.
Oh dear, okay. But then I really do love that scene on the rooftop. That was really touching, particularly for him as he had a bit of a breakdown, and that you felt the brotherly type bond between Dick and Jason, which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah, I quite like that, sort of establishing the bond between the Robins.
Yes, I thought that was good. Let's just bring in Tim Drake now.
It's a bit early. We've not had the crowbar yet.
I know. So how would you score this 1 out of 10?
9.
9.
I'm saving that 10 for something special.
So, episode 8, the most recent episode. We are up to date. I haven't even written a review of this one yet. So, Jericho. This episode took us back into flashback for the 3rd time to tell us the story of what happened after what we saw in the Aqualad episode where Dick met Jericho in the record store.
This was a really sad episode again.
This was a really sad one. It was... I don't think this episode painted the Titans in a very good light.
No, I don't think this whole series is painting the classic Titans in a good light.
They really did use him, and then obviously they did start to fall for him a little bit in that they really did make friends, but ultimately Dick decided to follow through on what he was planning to do in the first instance, and tragically it didn't end very well. Although, again, typical Titans that Dick said, I killed Jericho, when really what he means is, I take the blame for Jericho dying, I didn't give the killing blow.
No, but it was, he created a situation in which Jericho felt like he had to step in.
He did. I mean, him turning up was what ultimately led to that happening. That was brutal. There were two really brutal fights in this one. I loved the fight between Donna and Deathstroke. I liked the way she wrapped the lasso around both her hands and used it as slightly more of a lethal weapon than just using it as a whoosh.
It's not a whip.
You know what I mean, though?
A lasso.
Yes.
And it kind of really highlights the deadliness of Deathstroke.
It does. She was not left in one piece at the end of that scene.
To take out a room full of Amazons.
Yes.
That's not an easy feat to do.
No, that's true, actually.
Not that I've tried.
Would have been interesting to have seen that scene in general. It's a shame that Julia killed off, but at least we got some more context to her character. And sad to see that it was Garth who stood in front of the bullet for her, and actually she was the target.
Yeah, again, it's so sad.
So he was a hero after all. Not great for Donna.
No, bless her. She's having a rough series.
She's having a bit of a rough series, isn't she, really?
But again, this was the episode where it was a bit weird because then we had the flashbacks within flashbacks within flashbacks. And I did get a bit cross-eyed.
Yep, so there was plenty of Deathstroke's origin as well as Jericho's origin, which was really interesting to see the how they did the slit in the throat and stuff like that. That was all really interesting, and Deathstroke being in the military and being experimented on, and how he broke out from that, and then how he fell in with Wintergreen and ended up becoming an assassin. There was a lot of history in this one, really, to be fair.
And then how Jericho got his powers because it was all passed on through.
Yes, so we were saying
genetics.
that Jericho hadn't been born yet when Deathstroke had been experimented on, right? So he was then born later on and passed through the powers passed through to him.
Yeah, it wasn't really clear because I did wonder why he went from a black beard to a grey beard, but now I understand.
And from 2 eyes to 1 eye.
And from 2 eyes to 1 eye, yeah.
So we didn't quite do the full Deathstroke origin in that respect. And then it all culminated in that huge... Well, so the fight between Donna and Deathstroke, and then the fight between Dick and Deathstroke, which was...
grim.
It was pretty grim, actually. I was showing it to Matt while we were waiting to go into MCM when we were waiting for the shutters to open.
Oh, I wasn't there.
No, you... All right, you weren't there. And it's like, it looks like it's a pretty good hand-to-hand fight, and they've both got their bow staffs out. But then when Deathstroke brings out the knife at the end of it, and it's like, okay, stabbed in the stomach, yes. Stabbed in the leg, yes. Stabbed in the shoulder, yes. It's like, eesh, this is not a good time for Dick.
But then it gets even worse.
And then Titan's Tower shuts down.
Poor Jericho.
Yeah.
But is he really dead? Ooh.
Well, that's the thing. There was no shimmer in that moment that you saw pass into anybody else's body.
That's true, but, you want to give it away. We've spent so long talking about him throughout the whole series.
That's the thing. That was my only probably downside to this episode, would be that actually, although we didn't know the finer points of how it happened, we've seen it all. We've not seen it all. We've heard it all the way through the season, so it didn't really feel like we were learning anything new. We just learned the reasons, or not. We just saw exactly how it happened.
Well, we understand the complex circumstances behind it all now.
Yes, that's true. It was very nuanced in that respect.
So it's not just a case of, we killed Jericho. It's actually more complicated than that.
Yeah. I really want to know, actually, if Minka Kelly can read sign language, or if she was just doing it from the script.
I bet she can read sign language. She seems like a pretty cool girl.
That's my thoughts exactly. She just seems so nice. I bet she can do that.
I bet she can.
Yeah.
I'd like to be her friend.
Exactly. That's the situation. It's that, I'd like to be all of your friends. Did like to see Hank dancing. That was flipping hilarious.
He's got some moves.
With Jericho inside him.
Moving on, what were your scores for this episode?
Well, I don't know, because I've not written my review yet.
You're going to have to give a score.
I would probably give it an 8. I probably wouldn't give it a 9, just based on the fact that the timeline was a little bit higgledy-piggledy. Don't laugh at my use of that term. That's a genuine term. I don't think it quite lived up to the last couple of weeks, just because it's been so hyped throughout the season that actually it needed to do something completely like mind blowing to be unique as an episode, because we already knew so much of the story.
Fair enough.
Your score for this one?
I'm going to stick with a 9. I really liked this episode.
Oh yeah, sorry, I've already asked you that, haven't I?
Have you?
Yeah, because you said you're saving the 10 for something else. Or was that the last episode?
That was the last
Oh my god,
episode.
we've talked about so many episodes that I've gone completely cross-eyed.
Well, I'm going to give this one a 9 as well. I'm saving the 10 clearly for when he puts the Nightwing costume on.
Okay, fair enough. And that brings us completely up to date on Titans.
Oh god, I need to lie down.
We are completely safe that from here on in, we will just have to review Titans episode by episode fortnightly. I'm sorry we haven't talked about that one properly for a while, but it's been a very, very, very busy few weeks. So I want to quickly tell you about a book that I read in the airport when we were waiting to fly back from New York, which was Raven, Teen Titans Raven, which was written by Cami Garcia with artwork by Gabriel Picolo. It's one of DC Inc.'s young adult graphic novels. It's the first one of them that I've actually read. It's an origin story for Raven in many ways. It tells the story of Rachel and her adoptive family, and how that ties in. There's aspects of voodoo in there. It's got the Trigon origin story in there as well, but it's pitched at a younger audience and at an audience who maybe don't have a complete working knowledge of the DC universe. So it's very simplified. It's got some really nicely rendered characters in that they're very, very real people. There's almost a Buffy the Vampire Slayer type angle in that some of the demons are portrayed as manifestations of things that you go through as a teenager. So that it's got all the things that you would expect. You know, she has boy trouble, she has trouble in school, but it's all dressed up with the idea of Raven and becoming Raven and what that means and what it means for her relationship with her father. But it's just, the reason I wanted to mention it was it's just an excellent book. Even as somebody who's not a young adult and a reader of young adult fiction.
Definitely not a young adult.
Thank you. It's a really, really good read. It's a really good introduction to the character. Gabriel Piccolo's artwork is absolutely amazing. I just immediately started tweeting him while we were in the airport, because I was like, I love this book. This book is so well drawn. And he came back to me. We had a little chat about his artwork and how cool it was. And both he and Cami Garcia, who wrote this book, are doing the whole Teen Titans series, so they have a Beast Boy book that's coming out next year. I don't want to tell you too much about it, because actually I don't want to spoil it, because it's really worth a read, and it's difficult to say too much without going into detail. But the artwork in it is stunning. There's very little colour in it. Colour's used to accent certain scenes when you need it, and colour will build up as more and more is happening, and then it will die down again, and it's very much black and white in places. But it's just... I think it's possibly my favourite book that I've read this year. And absolutely, completely worth you going out and picking up. And you haven't read it yet.
No, because I've been trying to finish my classic Tim Drake run, which I have finished now.
Very good. So I think you need to pick up Raven and give it a read, because it's my right now it's my book of the year.
Well, once I finished
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Crisis on Infinite Earths, because I feel like I have to read that.
Yes.
Even though it's a struggle, I will then read Raven.
Very good. That's all I'm going to say about it. If you haven't read it, go out and buy it. It's available in bookstores now, and I can't remember my review off the top of my head. I probably gave it a 9 out of 10, but I would say in many respects this is a 10 out of 10 book, because it's just a really perfect little product that will not take too much time, but is thoroughly enjoyable in both, you know, the story and the artwork.
And where can it be purchased?
It can be purchased at all good bookstores, or where all good books are sold.
Okay.
Folky? You just said Folky?
Well, if you can tell me where all good comics are sold.
Raven is available now where all good comics are sold. We're nearly at the end of this mammoth podcast. 2 more topics to go, of which you weren't present for either of them.
No, I'm off now.
Oh, is that it? Are you done?
I'm done.
So I'm going to tell you about Terminator Dark Fate. Again, I'm going to keep this really, really quick, because I've not written my review yet, and the film's only just come out in cinemas, but it's something that I just want to make sure that we touch on, because it deserves some time. If you've seen Terminator Genisys, as we keep calling it, because it was spelled with a Y, not an I, or Salvation, which were the last 2 films, they weren't great. They were not great entries in the Terminator franchise. They now no longer exist. They've been written over, and we've gone back to sequel from Terminator 2. And this film is by Tim Miller, who you will know from Deadpool and it stars returning Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton. It also stars Mackenzie Davis, Diego Luna, Natalia Reyes, and Diego Boneta. I think I said someone's name wrong in there. It's a film which is not free of plot holes and contrivances. There are a lot of moments where people or technology or some kind of MacGuffin turns up exactly when the story needs it to help push it forwards towards a pretty inevitable conclusion. There are also the odd plot holes in it. Particularly early on in the film, Linda Hamilton's character mentions that she has been fighting Terminators for years and that someone has been sending her text messages to let her know when Terminators have arrived on our Earth. The problem that we had with that is that it's also mentioned that Skynet doesn't exist because we've surpassed the future when the apocalypse was due to happen in Terminator. And now the future where everything goes wrong is in 2042, with a new company which is called Legion, and their robots aren't called Terminators. The particular model that we see in this film is called a Rev 9. So one of the kind of timey-wimey plot holes is what exactly was Sarah Connor doing fighting Terminators, and who was sending Terminators back if we'd surpassed the future that never happened and went to a future where Terminators didn't exist. I can see you're going cross-eyed.
I wasn't even paying attention, I'll be honest, I'm sorry.
Okay. So there are problems with it. It's not the most perfect narrative, but it is an incredibly enjoyable film. It's pretty much balls to the wall action from the start, and there are some amazing moments of CGI in this film. There is a version of Linda Hamilton who is de-aged to look like she did in Terminator 2 at the beginning of this film, and I genuinely believed that it was either a lookalike or some sort of facial mapping that we've not seen before, because it's so, you wouldn't know it was CGI. If you stood here next to Henry Cavill sans mustache, you would think that one of them was a complete work of fiction, where the other one you'd think was a human being. It's honestly unbelievable how well this film does CGI sometimes. Unfortunately, the flip side to that is that there are moments when it looks fairly rubbery and fairly cheap. The film masks it quite well by having a lot of scenes happen at night, so there's a lot of dark moments where some of the CGI can be masked, which works well in the context of the film, but at no point does it ruin the overall narrative or your enjoyment of the film. I left the cinema thinking this was one of my favourite Terminators, and definitely up there as the best one that they've made since T2, thankfully removing all of the horrific memories of, and I'm sorry to say this because I know how much you love her, but Emilia Clarke being in the last film as Sarah Connor was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. You haven't seen this yet because you weren't there.
No, I wasn't there.
You were busy, though.
I was busy.
I didn't just replace you for a day.
No, I was very busy.
So we will maybe get you to see it at some point in the near future. You're just not that fussed about Terminator, are you?
No, I'm not really that bothered, to be honest.
Disappointed.
There are just some things that don't need to be remade.
It's not a remake, though. It's a continuation.
There are just some things that don't need to be continued.
One thing that we'll talk about down the line, once this film's been out for a while and everyone's had a chance to see it, is the ending of this film and where it could go if they were to make a sequel, because there were some interesting plot developments that leave it quite wide open as to where it could go next. We had a bit of a lengthy debate on leaving the cinema as to paradoxes and where exactly the story could go next without giving yourself a headache. I will write my review very soon and I will come up with a score, but I think I'll probably give this a 7. This feels like it's a 7 of a film. Last up, this week, before I completely lose my voice, MCM Comic Con happened at the weekend. I was only there on Saturday. You didn't get to go at all this time because you were so busy.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
Would you like to tell the lovely listeners at home what you were doing so people don't think that I literally left you behind?
I was sitting at home crying because you left me.
What were you really doing?
I was teaching first aid.
Exactly. You were helping people learn to save lives. You were doing important work while I was having my photo taken with a White Ranger helmet on. It was a good event, actually. I have to say it was not a good idea to cram 3 days into just Saturday. I should have at least done Saturday and Sunday because I had to rattle through everything so fast. So I got there, went straight to Funko, which was hell on earth. It was absolute. I've never seen anything like it in my life. and that comes from having just been to New York Comic Con and having been to San Diego before. The fact that people were grabbing and punching and scratching at each other to get into that queue as fast as possible was ridiculous. Especially bearing in mind that only one of the exclusives sold out over the weekend, and that was the Jack Skellington moment from The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is proudly sitting on our our mantelpiece, I might add.
We've not seen if it glows in the dark yet.
We've not. It does say on the box it glows in the dark. But it was just crazy. I mean, I enjoy a good Funko, and we've got 20 or 30 other things around the house, but I don't understand the obsession to the point of, you know, scratching at the person next to you to push them out of the way so that you can get there first. It was unnecessary. I look forward to seeing it on film though, because the Funko staff all filmed everyone running towards it. So we did that, ran over to the PlayStation booth where we did Iron Man VR, which I was honestly terrible at. Matt has some video footage of it, which if I'm brave one day I will show you. But you know, like when you're doing a driving lesson and they're trying to get you to parallel park or something, and you just sort of, it's supposed to be a 3-point turn and you do it in about 15 points.
Yeah.
Me trying to fly as Iron Man was like, little bit to the left, little bit up, little bit backwards, little bit to the right, little bit here, little bit there. Took me quite a while to get through the scenario, but the graphics are really, really cool. I've not done PlayStation VR before, and I got lost a lot in looking around, and because obviously you were flying for the whole thing. When I was up at my highest point, I did look directly down and got a bit of vertigo, which was interesting considering it was completely not real. Went over to the DC, well, there wasn't a strictly DC booth. There was a Warner Brothers booth where they had Dr. Sleep, which I can't tell you about at the moment because I'm still under embargo for that one. But there was a photo op there. There was also a photo op with the Birds of Prey doing the Friends sofa thing that they had at New York Comic Con. So there's a picture of me on Instagram as part of the cast of Birds of Prey. You could also get a tattoo done in Harley Quinn's tattoo parlour. Mine has washed off now, but I thought it was really funny how the girl was like, right, this is going to be really painful. Just brace yourself. Are you ready? And then, slapped the sponge on there in the water so that she could put the transfer on. But we did that so that we could get some Warner Brothers bags. So I got a Flash bag and a Batwoman bag. Tempted to give the Flash bag away. We could fill that with prizes for someone.
We could do.
Batwoman I kind of want to keep because I'm at that point where I think I like her now, so I might keep that one. We did so much. Spent some time in the Hasbro booth, which is when I was playing with the Power Rangers and put the helmet on. We also did a really funny photo of us stood in a Marvel toy box where I'm wearing Thanos' glove and Matt is wearing Iron Man's version, and we did like a fist bump. Unfortunately, the girl didn't take a photo of when we were strangling each other, which is a shame because that looked quite funny. Highlight of the weekend, but of the day, was the BBC panel for Dracula. So Dracula is written by Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss, who you will know from Sherlock fame, and also obviously Moffat from, well, actually, and Gatiss for some respect, from Doctor Who. Dracula is their latest series. It's going to hopefully be coming later this year, if not early next year. It's a 3-part drama, probably 90-minute episodes, similar to Sherlock, and it's based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. They showed the first trailer, which you can now see over on YouTube. I will put a link to it below. I won't include it in this because I've got a feeling BBC will rip it down straight away. But it's it's about a 47 second look at the series, and it looks very dark, very horrorful. It's got some very cool music. The panel included Moffat and Gatiss themselves, also producer Sue Virtue, and also Dracula himself, who is played by Claes Bang, who's I think he's a Danish actor. I didn't know him from very much. It looks like a lot of what he's done, a lot of his CV is based in his home country. It doesn't look like he's done a lot over here or in America, so he's going to be a fresh face to us, I think. But it certainly sounded like, from what they were saying at the panel, that they've done something unique that really honours the book. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with it. But as I said, that'll be coming either later this year or early next year, so that's one to keep an eye out for. I've shown you this trailer though, haven't I?
Yes.
What did you think?
Look interesting.
I think it's going to be really, really cool. That panel was the main reason that I decided to go on the Saturday rather than the Sunday, because I really wanted to see what they were going to do with it. It's something that I've been excited to see footage of, and now that I've seen footage from it, I'm really, really hyped for what they're going to be able to do with it. I think it's going to be something very, very special when it's done. Trying to think if there's anything else important to tell you about that we did. Saw Tara Strong, who's the voice of Harley Quinn and Batgirl and plenty of other DC Universe characters.
And Rugrats.
Yeah. Saw Simon Pegg. Who else did we see? Ooh, saw Jason David Frank, the original Green Ranger, Tommy Oliver. Saw him doing a little panel on the live stage. He was with Catherine Sutherland, who was the second Pink Ranger, and the third Yellow Ranger was also there as well. What else do we see? We played a little game of Spot the Joaquin Phoenix Joker. So there was loads of Joker cosplay, but if you saw Joaquin Phoenix, you had to say Joker, Joker, rather than just Joker. So that was a little thing that went on for the whole weekend, where it was like, Joker, Joker! Because there was just hundreds of them. Joaquin Phoenix was everywhere. Not a lot of Harley Quinns, and also not a lot of Stranger Things. Only 1 or 2 Stranger Things, not like New York Comic Con. Not the most popular costume of this year. A lot of Fat Thors, though. Gotta say, once again, there was not a huge amount of cosplay for London. Seems like the cosplay thing is not as big here anymore.
Did they mostly stand outside, though, not inside?
Yeah. The only problem was, of course, it was raining, so I think that kind of made a lot of people...
Oh, that's not good for the makeup.
No, all the costumes, they will just melt. That's about it, really. It was we were there from 9 o'clock because we did priority entry, and we left at 5:30, so it was pretty intense. I think I walked something ridiculous, like 17,000 steps, just going round and round the XL. And then I felt bad because people were tweeting me asking where you were.
Saving lives. Well, teaching people how to save lives.
Yes. Important work. Now that my voice is literally about to go, I think we have to wrap for the week. Well done.
Like a good place to wrap it up.
Yes. Well done, old chum, on rattling through that, because that's quite a long list on the old whiteboard.
Oh, Jiminy Jillikers, that was hard work.
Yes, it was. But that brings us nicely up to date on things like Titans. So, in theory, we could try and catch up on the 9 episodes of DC TV that have been on already. Like 3 Arrows, 4 Flash, 4 Supergirl, 4 Batwoman.
Are we 4 behind? Oh no, we've watched them.
We've watched all of them. No, don't worry.
I was going to say, God, that'd be a right crisis.
It would. No. Well, I'd quite like us to talk about Batwoman just because it's new. I don't think it's worth talking about Supergirl because it's dire.
Right.
Flash I'm enjoying and Arrow I'm enjoying, but that's a discussion for another podcast. For now, me and my sore throat, and you and...
my tired eyes.
Your tired eyes are saying goodbye and good night and farewell. Until next time, super friends.
Same bat channel. Same bat place.
It would be same bat time, same bat channel.
We'll cut that out then.
Bye.
Bye.